who opposes greater government transparency in the legislative process. In the complex world of politics, the question of government transparency often sparks intense debate. While many advocate for openness in the legislative process, there are notable groups and individuals who express opposition to increased transparency measures. Understanding their motivations can provide valuable insight into the dynamics of governance. One significant group that often opposes greater government transparency is certain political leaders and lawmakers. Their concerns typically revolve around the potential for increased scrutiny and the fear that transparency could hinder their ability to negotiate and make decisions behind closed doors. They argue that some discussions requiring confidentiality to protect sensitive information and maintain strategic advantages during negotiations. Additionally, lobbyists and special interest groups frequently resist transparency initiatives. These entities often seek to influence legislation in ways that may not align with public interest. They may argue that greater transparency could expose their strategies and weaken their negotiating power. By keeping certain aspects of their operations private, they can more effectively advocate for their causes without the pressure of public scrutiny. Another group that can be resistant to transparency is government bureaucrats. Some officials may believe that transparency can lead to misinterpretations of their actions or intentions. They might argue that the public does not always have the context needed to understand complex legislative processes, which could lead to misinformation and distrust in government. Furthermore, there are concerns about the potential for information overload. Critics of transparency argue that making all legislative processes open to public view could overwhelm citizens with excessive information, making it difficult for them to discern what is truly important. This could lead to disengagement rather than increased civic participation. Finally, there are cultural factors at play. In some political environments, a tradition of secrecy and confidentiality persists, where the norm is to keep legislative processes behind closed doors. Changing this culture to embrace transparency can be met with resistance from those who are accustomed to operating in a less open environment. In summary, opposition to greater government transparency in the legislative process comes from various sources, including political leaders, lobbyists, bureaucrats, and cultural norms. Each group presents unique arguments against transparency, often rooted in concerns about strategic decision-making, public perception, and the practical implications of sharing information. Understanding these perspectives is crucial for navigating the ongoing conversation about transparency in governance.